Be sure to go to flipsidegaming.com and use promo code 6 for 10% off on orders over $10. You can do the same at the Grizzly Gentleman for some fantastic beard products that'll make your beard look and smell great. You can also go to TCG Player using the affiliate link below and shop there to help support the show. And last but absolutely not least, go to greyvikinggames.com with the link below to get those sweet arena codes. What is up, Planeswalkers? Justin, aka Six, back with some more random Magic the Gathering discussions. My hair is a mess. Anyway, today I'm going to bring you a video that technically was supposed to be yesterday's Twitch stream, but yeah, I didn't wake up until like 2? And I usually end the stream at what, like 4? 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Yeah. And it took me like an hour to wake up. So here's this video. Essentially, I'm just going to talk about some of the top 15 cards that are mono white that I want to see in Explorer to make Death and Taxes have a few more good options. Now, there's more than 15 in the list that I created, but I'm just going to go with the 15 best ones. Now, technically, we're starting off on one of the weaker ones. This is, if this were to be cut, it would be the 15th, essentially, to be cut. But still, it does have some nice options. A 2-mana 2/1, you have Hexproof. Now, this looks very similar to Liliana of Sanctity. That's on purpose. Right now, luckily, there isn't too much, like, straight-up burn decks. So that isn't too much of an issue. However, in situations where it does become incredibly ubiquitous alongside just like everyone and their mums playing Thoughtseize, being able to have a Hexproof on a creature is pretty nice, right? Liliana of Sanctity, sure, it can come down for free, and it's relatively difficult for those types of decks, the red and black decks, to deal with a 4-mana enchantment, especially early on. It just sits there and does nothing. So if you top deck it, it's kind of bad. If you top deck Aegis, at the very least, it's a body. It's also a human, which can theoretically work if you're going to play Death and Taxes with a human sub-theme. This one is probably one of the top ones that I want, Phyrexian Revoker. Once again, 2-mana 2/1, that's what bears be. This is like Pithing Needle, except on a body. A difference, of course, is that Pithing Needle can hit lands. However, Pithing Needle can't stop mana abilities. This one can't hit lands, but it can stop mana abilities. So theoretically, if you're going against a deck that's like frickin' mono green elves or whatever, where like you don't really, they don't have all that much in terms of activated abilities of permanence, other than mostly mana abilities, you can still actually hurt them here. Unfortunately, of course, the elves often will be quite large. There's not much I can do about that, so... but yeah, Phyrexian Revoker is just fantastic. Being able to name one of their planeswalkers and then just slowly kill their planeswalker is quite nice. Being able to name one of their planeswalkers and ignore their planeswalker if you think it's fine to do so is just great. Being able to have something like this would be very nice. No, I mean that's it. This card is also up there. Probably this is probably the card that I think would help the deck the absolute most, and the reason should be incredibly obvious. We have Sack Dog, which can obviously protect one of your creatures. This can protect all of your creatures. Just gives all of your creatures indestructible until end of turn. Notably, this can still come back with the new 3-drop from New Capenna. I don't remember her fucking name. I know the art. I know the cost. She's a 3/2 with lifelink, and she returns a thing that's 1 or 2, and it can't attack or block while she's on the field. I remember that. I don't remember her, the actual card name. But being able to have, not only is this something that has 2 power, it also is something that can fly, which means it can actually reasonably get in for damage a lot of the time, which Selfless Savior often doesn't after the first 1, maybe 2 turns, right? But yeah, having Selfless Spirit is just absolutely nuts, and this is one of the cards that I want the most, and it's from freaking Eldritch Moon. Hey, Wizards, when are we gonna get freaking Shadows of Innistrad, what is that crap called? We haven't had one in forever. Remastered. When are we gonna get Shadows of Innistrad Remastered? Give me the cards. I want the werewolves. I want the humans. I want the zombies. But most importantly, I want the Eldrazi. It's not even this card, dude. No. This card's absolutely fantastic. And one other thing is, not only can you have a human sub-theme, but with some of the other cards on here, you could also have a spirit sub-theme in Death and Taxes, and this card obviously works its way towards that quite nicely. Speaking of spirits, Spirit of the Labyrinth. Hey, you know those stupid decks that like to draw a bunch of cards and just make you very mad? Spirit of the Labyrinth. It's a 2-mana 3/1. Also a spirit, which is pretty cool. Also, it hits for 3 damage. You might be saying, but Justin, it has 1 toughness. Yeah, I mean, look, Death and Taxes is not known for its very, very strong creatures. Death and Taxes are literally weak creature control decks. It comes with the territory, but if you have something like Selfless Spirit, sorry, you get to protect your things. It's fine. Just being able to sideboard this in against control, just be like, hey, turn 1 I play some dork. Turn 2, Thalia or Spirit of the Labyrinth. Turn 3, Thalia, which we'll get to, or Spirit of the Labyrinth. It's good. Just being able to say, hey, stop it. You're not allowed to do this. Could be quite nice. Hey, look, it's Brimaz. This is a full death card. There's like no taxes associated with this card. It's just like actually a card that Death and Taxes decks can use that has pretty dang good stats. And can help close the dang game. It's good. It's a 3-mana 3/4 with Vigilance, and when you attack with it, you get a Vigilance cat, and when you block, you get a Vigilance blocker. This thing blocks functionally at 4 power. This thing attacks functionally at 4 power. And they have Vigilance, so they get to stick around. Is great. You could maybe there's a soldier sub theme. I'm not entirely sure, but still, Eidolon of Rhetoric. I can speak human words. You might be saying, Justin, isn't this just a worse version of Archon of Emeria? To that I would say, technically, it can't fly. It only has the each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn ability. It doesn't have the non-basic counter tapped on your opponent's control. But this thing has 4 toughness, and it is a spirit. So theoretically, again, if you're trying to do that spirit sub-theme, this could be a better option than Archon in that specific situation. But most importantly, being able to have 4 toughness on a creature like this means that if you're playing against a deck that wants to hardcore aggro you, it's very possible that they're wanting to play a bunch of things to their board at once, right? Having this, not only can they not play a bunch of their things on their board at once to go wide, to get around your 4 toughness creature, but also you just get to have the 4 toughness creature. Now, I will say, the fact that it is 1 power does mean that against the combo decks, especially the non-burn combo decks, because theoretically some combo decks will be playing removal that can deal 3 damage, but whatever. But it doesn't have a very good clock, so it'll be difficult for it to be very great. But it's an option, and I like options. Speaking of options, there's Eldrazi in Taxes, which is just Death and Taxes that happens to have some things that care about colorless, and it's not hard to get colorless mana in your lands, because you sometimes want to be playing land destruction lands anyway. Like, I was gonna say Evolving Wilds for some reason. No, Field of Ruin. I always forget. I always mix that with Field of the Dead. Eldrazi Displacer is a 3-mana 3/3 colorless card. Oh, you might see it's white, but no, it has no color. But what's great about this card is its activated ability. You don't have to tap this, so you can use it as soon as it comes out, and you can do it as much as you can based on the amount of mana that you have. Exile another target creature. So it can't exile itself, it can't protect itself, whatever, that's fine, that's what Selfless Spirit is for. But it can exile your opponent's things. Then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. This blanks removal, that isn't a board wipe, this can make it so that your opponent can't fully, kill you, right? If you have this and your opponent has a freaking 5/5 creature, hopefully that doesn't have ETBs, you can go away, card back, boom. But what's really awesome about this card is that it works really nicely with a card that is like on the cusp of being great, which is Containment Priest, right? If you have a Containment Priest out and you have Eldrazi Displacer, this just becomes 3 mana, exile a creature. Obviously, it doesn't mean that you can't do as many tricks for your own stuff because she is symmetrical, Containment Priest, but having the ability, having the option to just yeet something completely is absolutely fantastic. Hey, look, Frontline Medic. This is a weird card. But in the end, I decided to keep this because it shares some similarity with the sacrifice ability of the captain. I don't remember the freaking captain's name. It's the 3-mana captain that is only in Historic. because it's Modern Masters? I think so. Regardless. This allows you to sack to counter something. Instead of like preemptively sacking, this is retrospective. But you're able to sack this and counter something that has X in its cost. Now, there aren't a ton of things with X in the cost that's being played right now. That doesn't mean that in the future, there won't be, right? So again, I just like the options. Additionally, it's a 3-mana 3/3 where when you attack with this and 2 other creatures, they get indestructible until end of turn, which means that in certain circumstances, especially if you do have vigilance creatures, like Brimaz, for example, you can really keep that race going without fear of your creatures just dying on blocks, right? So, you know, maybe you have this creature, you have a Brimaz, and you have an, let's say you have, what's that dude's name? What is the dude's name? Elite Spellbreaker, I believe. You have those 3, you attack, you stack the triggers such that the Brimaz token enters before this ability resolves. Boom, your creatures are indestructible. It's fantastic. What is your opponent going to do? Maybe they only have like 1 flyer that's a 3/3 or a 1/3, or who cares. Boom, it's dead and your creature's alive. They can just block your ground creatures, but with that Brimaz, you still have a blocker, and you keep growing your army, right? So it's a little bit more niche. It is a human. It's also a cleric, so I guess maybe you could have a cleric sub-theme as well. But it's quite nice. More Eldrazi taxes. Matter Shaper is just fun and stupid. You will note that a lot of these cards are 3 mana. Death and Taxes has a 3 mana and kind of a 2 mana issue. Really, Death and Taxes. I mean, we've got the Wandering Emperor, which is a pretty good 4-drop. But I feel like Death and Taxes just needs another good 1-drop. Like maybe Giver of Runes? Wizards? You want to add that to Pioneer? It might be too good in Pioneer. I don't legitimately know, but I need a good 1-drop. Anyway, Matter Shipper. Yeah, it's a 3/2 that when it dies, reveal the top card of your library. You may put it on the battlefield if it's a permanent card with mana value 3 or less. Otherwise, put it in your hand. That's the vast majority of cards, fun fact, that you play. The vast majority of your cards, because this includes lands. So if it dies, you get a land. Cool, whoop-de-doo. If you die, it could just get an Archon. You know, maybe your opponent kills this. The trigger resolves. Boom. You have an Archon of Myria. Your opponent now can't cast any more spells. They didn't play a land for a turn. Now they have to play their land. It comes in tapped, and they're sad. I mean, yeah. Whoop-de-doo fun. Thalia Heretic Cathar. Hey, look, it's another king card. That is from Eldritch Moon. Wizards, give us Shadows of Innistrad Remastered, please. Why are you doing this to us? Yeah, I mean, this card, creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter battlefield tapped. You know, we have the Archon of Emeria, which only cares about non-basic lands, just like this, but it has that other thing, whoop-de-doo. It does have flying, but she has First Strike, which, again, First Strike can be very helpful, especially if you have, like, 2-mana Thalia into 3-mana Thalia. You have 5 power of First Strike on defense. That's very difficult to power through. Both wide and large. Like, 5 toughness is relatively big, right? But also making it so your opponent's creatures enter tap means that she's also good at just racing your opponent. If your opponent's an aggro or mid-range deck, you can also just like, hey, that comes in tap, and go ahead and attack. You know, you get Eldrazi Displacer down. You start the things that have been out. You make them come back in, and just like, hey, get effed on. It's great. She's so good. Although, like, I'm realizing the more cards, man. So in Modern, and I think Legacy at this point too, the Death and Taxes decks are pretty much all Yorion Death and Taxes decks. I know Legacy is. I think Modern Death and Taxes is as well. But those decks have more searchers, right? We don't really have that for Explorer. Now, I haven't actually played a Yorion version of Death and Taxes, but if we end up getting some of these cards, I might just do it. Maybe I make a Yorion Death and Taxes deck anyway for Explorer. I might. It feels wrong to me. Hey, look, it's Archangel of Tides. It's a 4-mana 3/5. I just like this card because, I mean, you're playing mono white deck with her. You're likely not going to have to worry about this mana cost. But just a 3/5 is something that's going to die to very few things. If it's untapped, your opponent just like cannot swarm you. If it's attacking, your opponent's just going to be very annoyed to try and block you. It's a great card against opposing aggro / mid-range decks. Just very nice card. I like her. She's underplayed. Thought Not Seer. Hey, look, it's another 4-drop. This card is, once again, for Eldrazi and Taxes. Enters the battlefield. Your target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it and exile that card. When it leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card. So, this card is just gone. It's straight up just gone. You don't have to worry about them removing this and it coming back. Whatever. Notably, this is leaves the battlefield, not draws. Right? So, theoretically, your opponent can just, like, exile it and they still get the card. Whatever. The card is just straight exiled, right? And this is just a 4-mana 4/4 that you can flicker. Like, you can keep doing that. A random card, generally, is going to be worse than the specific card that you chose, right? Also, hey, Wizards, just give us more fucking cards. Hey, look, it's Reality Smasher. Now, this is a little bit less of a Death and Taxes card and more of just like a normal Eldrazi card. But if you're playing Eldrazi and Taxes, you're likely going to be wanting a little bit more mana production anyway, right? Because you're going to want the Thought Not Seers. You're definitely going to want the Matter Reshaper. Depending on your exact build, you might want the Eldrazi Displacer. But in general, you might have like 2 of these in a deck as a finisher in Eldrazi and Taxes. And it'd be fine. Because it's freaking huge. It has Trample and Haste. Is going to kill your opponent. But hey, there's still some taxes there. If it becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, counter the spell unless its controller discards a card. Look, it's real messed up. But like that's the type of thing I'm talking about, right? When you have things like Matter Reshaper, right? Let's say you play this on 3. It dies. You reveal a land. On your 4th turn, you play a land, you dome them. For 5, right? You know, turn 2 is 2-mana Thalia, so there's sad. Turn 3 is Matter Reshaper. They're able to kill it, although, frankly, they probably would just kill the Thalia. If they don't, you play Thought Not Seer. If they do, you play Reality Smasher. And you just crack in. Blind Obedience is a weird one. I like Blind Obedience as an option, right? Because we have cards that do similar things already. Archon, Thalia, right? We have those cards. But this has Extort, right? And depending on the deck you're going against, that Extort can mean a lot. Now, if you compare this to Council's... No. The 1-mana card from Kaladesh. I can see the card, like the art. I know what it does. Creatures ETB tapped. You gain a life every time it does. You don't gain a life when their stuff comes in the battlefield. But when you cast your own stuff, you can just drain them. And what's nice about Blind Obedience over that is that you drain them, right? You don't just gain some life. You're not just mitigating the inevitable. You're actively working towards them slowly dying. So that's why I wanted that. And then last but absolutely not least, again, one of the top... Holy crap. Champion wants $330. I mean, this card used to be so much more money. I didn't know they reprinted it recently. I do need to pick up some of these. Milivoj. Why Milivoj? It's a creature land that only costs 1 to activate. That's it. That's the entire thing. That's the entire thing. Now, we have some other creature lands that have been doing well with Cave of the Frost Dragon, technically Hive of the Eye Tyrant. You could even still just use things like Blinkmoth Nexus, right? But the fact that this is a creature of all types means that if you do have a human subtheme, if you do have a spirit subtheme, hell, even potentially a golem subtheme, thanks to Blade Splicer, it's going to be great. It's going to be so good. It's so inexpensive to use. That's what is so great about it. You only have to hold up 2 lands in order to have a 2/2, as opposed to 6 lands to have a 3/4 flying. But that's it. I just wanted to talk about some cards that I would like to see in Explorer for Death and Taxes. This video is probably not going to do well, but if it gets, let's see, let's go to my recent videos. Look at how they've been doing. 19, 26, 20, 10, 20. If this can get 20, yeah, 20 is fine. If this can get 20 likes, I'll make another video about the top probably 10 for most other things. Cards that I want for zombies, for Bolas, for Abzan, for... what are other archetypes that I like? Module combo. That might be hard. But yeah, if I get like 20 likes on this video, then I'll do that. Otherwise, bleh. I probably won't do another one, because it's not going to be popular. I'd like to thank my lovely patrons for the continued support. If you'd like to join them in supporting the show, the links are in the description below. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, I will be one.